know it. Throw your hands up and show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And if you love,
what an appetite!
happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Find your happiness in San Diego.
What an appetizer this is on a first Saturday in April where Duke and North Carolina dominate sports headlines. The two arch rivals meet on the lacrosse field here in Chapel Hill at Dorrance Field. A critical ACC win is on the line. Hey everybody, alongside the former Duke attackman David Keefe, I'm Matt Krause. Consider us your chips and dip for Carolina Duke Saturday. Well, David, this one will be epic. An ACC win on the line and a fierce rivalry, too.
Both teams are looking really to figure out how to crack the code, the secret sauce to get that ACC win. They need to propel themselves into the NCAA tournament. They both had some consistency issues this year, so it's going to be a real matchup. And obviously the Duke-Carolina rivalry, you can't find one better in the country.
Well, a really consistent piece of play for Duke this year has been Mike Adler between the pipes. He's been strong in cage.
Mike Adler's the anchor for the defense. He does so many things from a communication standpoint. He has a really amazing technique. Athletically, he gets in front of the ball almost in an unorthodox way. He's an amazing outlet passer. He leads to a lot of offense and fast breaks, and he really knows how to set the tempo for the offense and for the defense.
What a test today, though. Chris Gray, perhaps the best attackman in the entire country.
Yeah, Chris Gray's generational player, epic player, actually probably the GOAT, really. He's 23 points away from being the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history. How do you cover him? He's a shooter, he's a feeder, he's a field general. He's everything you want in an attackman.
Gray, the transfer from Boston University, by the end of the day, there's a very strong chance he could be number 2 in NCAA history in career points. What elite company on this list.
Yeah, I mean, you just, looking at who he's actually set to potentially pass, but also who he already has passed. Janowski, Pennell, Fields, it's an amazing, amazing accomplishment. And, he's just, on his way.
Zach Tucci of North Carolina, Jake Naso of Duke at the face-off dot. Blue Devils win the opening draw. So an early chance to see Duke work offensively. Got off to a very slow start last week against Syracuse on the road. Trailed the game 7-1. Came back and only lost by 4, 14-10 despite the early hole. But the Blue Devils are in danger of dropping back-to-back games today for the first time since 2019. It's been a long time since Duke lost 2 in a row.
Yeah, Duke's got to really look at it from the vantage point of trying to come up with smart plays, being able to hold on to the ball at the right time and be consistent. And that's something that's somewhat vexing them this season.
A stop on the initial possession of the game earned by a very young Carolina defense. That was the question mark for the Tar Heels coming into this year. Having to replace 2 starters on the defensive end off a team that went to the Final Four last year. Carolina took their lumps there early in the season, falling to Ohio State by 12 at home. They've been playing well of late.
Yeah, I think some of the turning point of that young defense was actually, even though they lost to UVA, they learned a lot in that game. They were tied very late in the game, so they played a real complete game, and against one of the best teams in the nation with Schellenberger and the supporting cast there. So it's one of those things you have to play the games in order to figure out who you are.
Got a look at Joe Bresci a moment ago, 14th year head coach at his alma mater, 2016 national champion, and a flag goes down. Looks like we may have an early EMO for the Tar Heels here.
Yeah, it looks like Nakai Montgomery might have had an inadvertent push into the crease.
Blue 17, interference, 30 seconds. Blue 17, interference, 30 seconds.
And it's actually Jack Frisoli, the graduate D-Midi, transfer from Harvard. So the Tar Heels.
Hold on the clock.
And we actually find out, okay, it is Montgomery. It was the official that was inaccurate there. 15, not 17. So an EMO for the Tar Heels.
20 seconds.
Thanks for that.
Chris Gray finds Nicky Solomon, misses wide. Will be backed up by Jacob Kelly, and the Tar Heels will keep it here. About 10 more seconds of the extra man. Tar Heels 4th best in the 5-team ACC. Just about 35% in converting extra man opportunities. Gray hits the top of the pipe.
It looks like that'll be a reset.
Shot clock does reset when it strikes the goalie or the cage, and a new rule this year off of missed shots that stay with the offense. Shot clock resets to 60 seconds instead of the full 80. Helps speed up the tempo of the game. Back to even strength here.
And if you're looking at the play right now, this is exactly what Carolina wanted to get in some good opportunities and really force the play. And again, Duke has got to get a little bit more consistent right now in this possession.
Adler stuffing Chris Gray. Now the Blue Devils go back on offense, and the stick breaks. Cole Herbert's stick broke. The head is just laying there on the field, just outside the restraining line.
Devils are pulling it out, and they're going to try to look for, the high probability shot, which is really something that, they need to do this game. It looks like they're going to slow it down, 6-on-6.
Brennan O'Neill turned aside by Colin Krieg between the pipes for the Tar Heels. Krieg is pumped up, sophomore goalie out of Long Island. One of the more unique players Joe Bresci has ever coached. Solomon fires, Adler stands tall. Strong goalie play in the opening minutes here, David.
Yeah, the goalies create offense. So, if you have great goalies, you're going to have a lot of opportunities, just like you see here. Get the ball back, generate some offense, and really not turn it over, which is, that was a unforced error by Duke.
So possession back to the Tar Heels. We talk about turnovers. Duke dead last in the ACC. They commit nearly 16 per game, and that's been their bugaboo all year long.
Yeah, it's very hard to advance in the ACC or the NCAAs with that level of turnovers.
Second midfield line coming on the field now for the Tar Heels. See Harrison Schertzinger, 5 in white. Ryan O'Connell's out there as well. O'Connell part of the second midfield unit today as Cole Herbert made his first start of the season. Antonio DeMarco, 15 in white, standout freshman, part of the #1 recruiting class in the country. Mike Adler, anything but a freshman, the graduate student who leads all active goalies in the NCAA in saves, comes up with another one.
Yeah, Adler right now has 3 saves. But, when you look at it, you can't ask your goalie to continue that, torrid pace the entire game. So the offense right now really is incumbent upon them to get some productivity, take care of the ball, and allow the defense to take a rest. That's one of the big things when you look at it. As a field general, you have to be able to slow the ball down and let your defense take a breather.
Mostly quick possessions so far in this one. Nakai Montgomery slips on the natural surface here at Dorrance Field. Results in a ground ball opportunity. Colin Lawhead trying to scoop it up, the defender for the Tar Heels. Bodies everywhere. Eventually a flag does come down.
Yeah, so 2 days ago we had a tremendous amount of rain, and it could be that there's still some dampness, down there. A lot of slipping going on.
White 38 slash 1 minute. White 38 slash 1 minute. 1 minute penalty, coaches.
Yeah, so that was a slash that led to a trip actually, and it was just aggressive ground ball play. There's really nothing that's pretty common, and it's going to happen.
Duke is one of the most efficient extra man offenses in the country, #2 in the nation behind only Ohio State. They convert nearly 62% of their man-up opportunities.
So Keon number 21, Cam Mule, they bring him in mostly just for these situations. He is a crease sharpshooter, and they look for him once they run their plays.
Dyson Williams does find Mule. Work it around for Joe Robertson. Now into the cross of O'Neill, a flamethrower! Brennan O'Neill opens the scoring for Duke. And the standout sophomore makes it 1-0 Blue Devils.
It was great rotation on that. you could see they were very patient, and they spread it out. They made the defense come out to play them. Longer slides, eventually, move the ball quick enough. You have someone like O'Neill open who has just an absolute howitzer from outside.
Brennan O'Neill with goal number 36 on the season, reached 100 points for his career in 29 games. That's tied for the third fastest in the history of the Duke lacrosse program. Tucci sprawls out, and possession will go the way of the Tar Heels. Carolina dominating shots early 6-2. Saves, though, favor Duke 4-1. Mike Adler's been standing on his head early on against a Carolina team that's been out of conference their last 2 games. They had to come back in the fourth quarter to beat Bellarmine last week. Bellarmine led that game 8-7 after the third. Then Carolina outscored the visiting Knights 8-0 in the final quarter for their first fourth quarter comeback win since 2019.
Really nice defensive play by Duke right there. He let this man go by him and then pulled out a nice, what we call trail check. And those are the kinds of gutty plays that you actually need to come up with in order to stop such a potent Carolina offense.
What's impressed you most about Duke defensively so far?
Well, they've stopped. Carolina hasn't scored. I mean, it's very simple. The Carolina, you're talking about not if they're going to score, but when, and you want to limit those opportunities. So, it is hot out there. It's tiring, and the goalie can't do it all. So you have to have supporting cast members like that, pulling off really nice, well executed checks, and getting the ball down, turning over.
Andrew McAdory, standout freshman number 2 in blue, gives it up for O'Neill, the goal scorer. Wants another one, and he has it. Brennan O'Neill with his second goal of the game, and O'Neill scores yet again. The visiting Blue Devils make the 8-mile trip down to Chapel Hill and have raced out to the early lead.
It's still the Eat Fresh Refresh at Subway, and they're refreshing everything, even their Italians.
Whoa, you talking Italians? Jimmy's gonna take it from here.
And they're gonna keep refreshing and
Okay, so I need someone to help with phone trades while I'm out. People can get a free Samsung Galaxy S22 when they trade in a Galaxy. Any year, any condition.
Oh, I get it. So you can take your old phone that you've had for 12 years and loved every minute of and trade it in for something new that suits your life now?
That's right, yeah.
Then enjoy immediate success, even though you'll never forget your old phone, ever.
It's a great trade.
Life-changing.
Get a free Samsung Galaxy S22 with a Galaxy trade-in. Any year, any condition.
North Carolina doubling up Duke in shots so far, but it's the Blue Devils on top thanks to stellar goalie play from Mike Adler, David.
Yeah, Mike Adler, this is his style of game. He likes to go down. He's very unpredictable, so it's hard as a shooter because he actually has somewhat of an unorthodox approach to it. He's super athletic. He's very emotional, and he reads the defense well. So right now, he's also communicating with the defenders. Remember, a goalie is really considered the first offensive player. So once he stops the ball, offense starts, and that's where Duke is doing well today right now, early on.
Blue Devils win their second face-off out of 3 so far. And that's been such a determining factor for Duke's success this season. 8-4 on the campaign. The 2 losses in the month of March, which came to Loyola and Syracuse, both on the road. Jake Naso lost at the X in those games. Additionally, the game that Naso didn't play in February against Jacksonville, Duke lost at home, snapping a 14-game win streak. So if Duke can establish something there at the X, it could be a long day for Carolina. Kai Montgomery from goal line extended, draws the slide.
Duke is making the Carolina defense really move a lot, and it's expending energy. It's making them continue to rotate, as we say, and they're pulling it out. They're being patient, and over time that will pay dividends potentially.
O'Neill with just 12 to shoot. He has 2 already today. Pushed out and has to find Robertson. This is Sean Lully from X with 5 on the timer. Lully misses wide. It's backed up by Dyson Williams, but with just 2 to shoot. Duke has to do something very quickly here. Williams will just let the time expire, call it a turnover, and give it back to Carolina. John Danowski, 16th year head coach of the Blue Devils. 21 seasons as the Hofstra head coach prior to taking over the program in Durham.
Yeah, and he's a coach who loves April and May. You got to remember that. He looks at this time as a time where you sort of take the first part of your season and then you reevaluate and what do you need to do in order to get into the balance of the season, the heart of the ACC record, and ultimately, into the NCAAs. So that's what he's really known for, and we'll see how it goes.
You played at Duke and you followed the program closely for years. Just as well as anyone. 2-4 and a national championship in 2013.
Yeah, 2-4, and when they went into that tournament, they were ranked 5th.
Back-to-back impressive saves from Adler. Ryan O'Connell tried to sneak it by him. 2 more for Mike Adler. He's now got 6 on the game. And in transition, here's Jake Caputo.
Yeah, so great goalie play is a huge psychological advantage for a team. And when you see this going on, it pumps up the rest of the players, and it makes everyone believe that that they can perform at a higher level. So let's see if Adler can keep up that sort of, as I said before, torrid pace. But it's a good sign for the Blue Devils.
How does he keep it up if the law of averages says it's going to be tough to do?
Well, I think again the key is making sure the defense isn't too gassed over time. There's going to be adjustments by both teams at halftime. So, but I have to say that great goalie play like that is hard to maintain for 4 quarters.
Aiden Denenza with the ball in his cross from a high school teammate of Brennan O'Neill at St. Anthony's in Long Island. Alex Bresci knocks it free.
Going back at him.
288's going at it here. Creed comes up with a save on the shot from the standout freshman McAdory.
It was a really good stop by Carolina, trying to really make them think about the Duke Devils, think about their passes, and ultimately made them take a shot too far out.
Botched clear. Keith Boyer forces Krieg to go to his knees. Back-to-back saves by Colin Krieg. First midfield back in there for Carolina. Cole Herbert has the ball in his cross at the moment, number 1 in white. First start of the season for the sophomore from Kingsville, Maryland. Calvert Hall product with 11 tallies on the year.
Schertzinger.
This is Henry Schertzinger, one of the 2 twins. Harrison's been playing on the second midfield line. Henry on the first, seniors from Cincinnati. From X, here's the dangerous Chris Gray, and Adler goes to his knees again. Tell you what, if Mike Adler ends his day with those knees all scraped up and dirty, but Chris Gray's having trouble getting in the cage, Mike Adler doesn't care.
Well, I think regardless of that save, the most important thing is when you have the ball on this end of the field, if you're Duke, Gray's not touching it. So sometimes, like, the best defense isn't just defending Gray, it's just making sure Gray doesn't touch the ball, because attackmen can go cold when that happens. So, that's one of the things where, using all your possession clock, right? Fighting for that great shot can actually start to reduce the performance of your opponent's offense.
Compared to 7 days back at the Carrier Dome, what's different about Duke's start today?
Everything. The Duke at that point started and I think got punched in the mouth and didn't really know how to respond. And that happens to teams. So then they spent the rest of the game catching up, and I think they wanted to come out and assert themselves this game in the same way that Syracuse did last week.
They lead it 2-0. 2 goals from Brennan O'Neill, Duke's leader in goals this season. Just 5 to shoot now. Griffin Catlett in the game against a double team. Krieg stops it.
Both those Carolina stops right here, they made Duke take a shot from too far out, which is an easy save for Krieg. So, I credit Carolina for that just now. They should be happy with those last 2 possessions on against Duke.
But as you said, sometimes the best defense is having the ball on offense and chewing clock with long possessions. Duke has done that so far in this game, especially as this first quarter is wound along. This is Harrison Schertzinger, Henry's brother, with the second midfield on for Carolina. Off a 2-goal game last week against Bellarmine and misses wide.
Talking to Coach Stanowski earlier in the season, his sort of metric for Adler is he should be able to save everything from 12 yards out, and everything from bad angles. So if you judge this game, think about that in terms of goalie performance. Things that are right on the doorstep, they don't expect the goalies to save those. So watch for that.
DeMarco can't dodge against Catlett playing defense as well. There's one on the doorstep. Adler comes up with the save anyway. What a first quarter from Mike Adler. Ball free behind the cage, by the way, but scooped up by Wilson Stevenson, then knocked free.
Got a fast break the other way, and looks like Duke's going to slow it down.
Duke can take the final shot of this quarter. O'Neill with 2 goals already, locates Robertson. 10 seconds left in the period. Sean Lully, grad transfer from Penn. Lully past the far post. It will be Carolina possession, but just 4.5 seconds to do something here. Tar Heels will fling it all the way down. Bresci will come up with a shot that Adler stops just for good measure. It's number 9 for the quarter for Mike Adler, the graduate student standing on his head. And the Blue Devils keep the Tar Heels off the board in the first.
When Subway opened, they changed the fast food game. But sometimes you gotta refresh to be fresh. Welcome to the Eat Fresh Refresh. We got the... Wait, that's new.
Because we're refreshing the refresh.
What?
There's the new honey mustard chicken, the Subway Club, and the new Baja turkey avocado with...
New Baja Chipotle sauce?
Yep, they're constantly refreshing with better ingredients, better footlongs, and better spokespeople.
It's the Eat Fresh Refresh at Subway, and they're gonna keep refreshing and
How about sushi?
I just had sushi for lunch yesterday.
How about tacos?
Tacos.
Automatic emergency braking, one of 6 advanced safety features standard on every 2022 Chevy Equinox. Find new technology, find new roads.
Very well qualified buyers can get 0% financing on all 2022 Equinox models, or get $750 cash allowance. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Despite 21 combined shots in the first quarter, it's just a 2-0 lead for visiting Duke in this rivalry matchup against North Carolina. 2 of the ACC's 5 programs in the top 20. Virginia number 2 in the country, 2-time reigning national champs. But when you look around the national landscape, the ACC may not get more than 2 teams in this year's NCAA tournament. And with these 2 teams both 0-1 in the league, David, this game is enormous.
Yeah, this is this is the coveted game, really. I mean, you talk about it. There is no ACC tournament, right? So you have to perform well, the balance of the schedule. And when you look at it, they both need to win this game in order to have a viable shot at the being included in the NCAAs, given that they both have a lot of ACC games ahead of them.
6 ACC games this season. This the second for both teams. Duke lost at Syracuse last week. North Carolina lost at home to Virginia a couple of weeks ago. Alongside the former Duke attackman David Keefe, my name is Matt Krause. Glad you're with us for the first of 2 matchups between Duke and North Carolina today. The big one on the hardwood tonight in New Orleans. This one in the lacrosse field, played in front of a big crowd on a glorious day in Chapel Hill. Brennan O'Neill with 2 goals for Duke in the first quarter. Carolina leading shots 12-9. But unable to find the back of the cage, thanks in part to Mike Adler with 9 saves. But there, an unforced error, and the Tar Heels turn it over for a 3rd time.
Yeah, it's interesting, right, watching that possession right there. One of the things that Coach Bresci told us during this week is that the key thing that he needs to have happen is that their midfield has to step up to win this game. And that means at all levels, first, second, and even down to the thirds. He said that against UVA they were there for 3 quarters and then they weren't. And so this is one of those things where you look at that last play, throwing it out of bounds. That's a tough thing against in a game that's probably going to be very tight.
Saw the graphic pop up there on the screen. For years, when you heard the word midfield and you thought about North Carolina, it was that trio: Justin Anderson, Tanner Cook, and William Perry. They're all gone. Having to be replaced this year is Brennan O'Neill as a hat trick. 3rd goal of the game for Duke's goal leader, number 38 on the season for the sophomore.
Yeah, this is a classic question mark dodge, right? He's going to come around righty, and then he's going to pump it back with his strong, dominant hand, lefty. He has really, I think, realized that he needs to, play the game on both sides of the goal instead of coming around lefty every time. So that's a perfect answer. It's called a question mark dodge, and it's about at 105 miles an hour. So good luck with that.
Casual, 105.
Yeah, I mean, maybe faster.
All squirts free near the goal line, and Adler picks up the ground ball. Duke will get a possession after the goal to go up 3-0. The Blue Devils looking for a quick look down the alley. It's Denenza, it's a bouncer. It's backed up by Dyson Williams, and Duke will keep it here.
It was a reasonable shot because he saw he had the backup. So at that point, he knew that he was going to take a shot that was going to go over the cage if it missed. And that's something that smart players do. He's a sophomore, and he's one of these Dodgers who's always dodging with his head up. So he's an amazing passer as well.
Part of that St. Anthony's quartet with O'Neill and McAdory and Jake Naso, the face-off man. Near turnover, but no one in the white Carolina jersey in the neighborhood. This is McAdory, number 2 recruit in the country.
Now, what happens when O'Neill starts to score is you have to start respecting him more, which leads other players with more time and space to shoot. And that's something that's going on right now, as you see. In games where O'Neill hasn't scored as much, they can pack it in on the other players, right? But in this case, O'Neill is a real threat. He's having a great game, so you have to be very, very, reticent about him and be always watching him, and other players are going to have better opportunities, that means.
Multiple goals in 10 of the 12 games this season for O'Neill. The Tar Heels will earn a stop. Ground ball pickup by Blake Gable. So for the Tar Heels offensively, obviously Mike Adler's having a terrific game between the pipes and goal. What else does Carolina need to adjust to try and get on the scoreboard here, David?
I think if you're Carolina, you have to settle down. Just settle down. They have an amazing coaching staff, a great game plan, and this is one of those things where you normally see great halftime adjustments. But also it's about learning. This is the first time they've played the season, right? So you're learning the matchups, and that'll help both teams next time they play.
Adler, another one. Double digits with 10 saves.
It is just right now almost statistically impossible to talk about where Adler is in this game. Again, can that continue? Who knows? But it's giving the Duke team in general a lot of mojo.
O'Neill thinking about 4. He goes low. It's backed up by Lully, so Duke will keep it here.
Yeah, with shots like that, it's a matter of not if he's going to score, but how many.
Well, you turned to me during the break at the end of the first quarter. You said Mike Adler's on pace for 36 saves.
Yeah, which, again, you run into the law of averages. It's probably not going to happen, but it's impressive that 9 saves in 1 quarter.
Tar Heels O'Brien go quick here in transition. It's Solomon from distance. It's save number 11.
And this leads to early offense, which is, again,
Dyson Williams brings the heat and backed up by O'Neill.
That's a perfect example of how the goalie is the first offensive player. You make the save, you have the outlet pass, you 4-on-3 quick fast break, and you get a decent shot. I mean, he took 6 steps in his windup for that shot.
So now Duke will settle things down. Reed Landon's into the game, 26 in blue, top of your screen. Freshman from Dallas who's seen extended playing time of late.
In the crease. So
Mike Adler with 11 saves on the game, already over halfway to his career high. That was 20 in Duke's victory against Richmond earlier this year on March 5th. Tar Heels have tried to go quickly their last couple of times on offense. More methodical this time. Schertzinger for Tillman. Now over to Herbert. Behind for Gray. Relatively quiet today. Chris Gray.
He's got his man hung right now, so this is he's going to set up Office back there and try to see if he can sneak either a shot or quick shot. Question mark dodge right there.
But a smart shot because he had the backup from Solomon.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, the one difference in this game is that, you know, we've talked before, is Chris Gray hasn't had the ball much. You can't score if you don't have the ball on your stick. So, and that's the ball's been at the other end. I don't know what the exact time of possession is right now, but I guarantee you it's you know, pretty much in favor of Duke.
Yeah, the shot number is dead even at 16. Shots on goal, 11-10 Carolina. Yet the scoreboard, the column that counts, 3-0 Duke. And it'll stay 3-0 as Adler goes down to the ground yet again. It was Schertzinger that took it.
So, this is Garrett Ledman.
Ledman's played offensive midfield earlier in his career at Duke, primarily a defensive midfielder now, but is lethal in transition. 4 goals on the year.
Incredibly, he broke Paul Rabel's scoring records in high school. So that's what kind of, you know, guys on, you know, now he's playing defensive midfield. You know, it tells you how much talent all of these teams have. I mean, you have guys, you know, that are that prolific scorers.
And how hard it is to get playing time on offense at Duke. Colin Krieg with the save on Reed Landon's shot. Told you about the increased playing time for Landon, the freshman. Connor Marr, all ACC defensive midfielder, will finish off the clear. And now Joe Bresci calls for time. So a timeout called by North Carolina. Tar Heels still in search of their first goal here at Dorrance Field in a rivalry.
It's still the Eat Fresh Refresh at Subway, and they're refreshing everything, even their Italians.
Whoa, you talking Italians? Jimmy's gonna take it from here.
And they're gonna keep refreshing and
DQ is taking your taste buds for a ride with the new Signature Stack Burger menu, featuring 5 mouth-wowing cheeseburgers, like the loaded A1 Stack Burger and the spicy Flamethrower Stack Burger. Try the new DQ Signature Stack Burger menu today. DQ, happy tastes good.
The overtime went into overtime. What do? You turn to DiGiorno to be MVP. MV Pizza. Fresh baked taste. The win and move. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
We talked to Joe Bresci this week. He said special teams is what wins you games in the ACC. Well, a lot of stats in this one, pretty even. But David, look at this ground ball number. Duke more than doubling up the Tar Heels.
Yeah, they're up 12-5. You know, it's the intangible, probably the unsexy statistic, right, that you see that doesn't get reported all the time. But, you know, when you look at that, with the ground ball difference in the middle third of the field, that's big. And it looks like there could be another ground ball right here, or at least a chance for a turnover. So, you know, that's what we call the dirty work. You know, who's willing to do the dirty work? And in this case, right now, the Devils are ahead on that one.
how frustrating is that for Carolina, calling a timeout there to set something up, try and get this offense going. Instead, you turn it over. Colin Krieg does make the save on the shot by Sean Lully, but the Tar Heels unable to get anything going offensively after the timeout.
Yeah, that was, I think that was, they gave him that shot. It was in almost all circumstances, you probably want to take that, although I would have pulled that one out. Because, again, you're trying to keep the ball out of Chris Gray's stick, right? So pull that one out. You just got a great ground ball down here. You had another stop. Give your defense a break. Let them rest.
Ball is in the stick of Chris Gray. Flings it back toward midfield, and it is an over and back call. Lawhead reached over, trying to poke the ball forward. But the officiating crew does call it over and back at another Tar Heel turnover. 5 turnovers now for both teams, but back-to-back possessions for Carolina.
And that's another ground ball. So, like I said, sometimes great teams are highly defensive and ground ball oriented, and they win championships. So that's one of those metrics I always like to look at.
It feels like Duke is doing a really good job of limiting Chris Gray, the passer, today. Williams misses, backed up lower.
Yeah, that was actually a play, and that they were waiting on, and a wide open Dyson Williams.
Montgomery from goal line extended, matched up on Connor Marr. He's got the short stick. Williams on the doorstep.
So Williams is a box lacrosse player. Canada is amazing. He can work in tight, both hands, cross-handed, you name it. He can get off shots that are miraculous. So that's why they've got something going on that they're trying to key on.
Montgomery hits the pipe. Clock does reset. Lully can't keep it in bounds on the end line, and possession will go back to the Tar Heels. Williams got a couple of looks there. Ultimately, Montgomery did fire off the shot.
Duke's really packing it back on the ride right now, almost conceding that, trying to get set up defensively.
Tar Heels will bring the second midfield in, still in search of their first goal. That first quarter of this game, just the second time this year that Carolina has gone scoreless in an entire quarter. They nearly went scoreless second quarter last week against Bellarmine before scoring with about 90 seconds left before halftime.
Yeah, and slow starts can cause you to sort of doubt yourself.
Gray from distance, Adler lays out to keep another one out of the net.
You get a reset on that one. And, Duke's had its share of slow starts as well. They were down against Jacksonville, down against UVM, down against a couple other teams.
Even the Denver game that they won convincingly, that was 5-5 after the first quarter.
Yeah, I called that game, and it wound up being a real offensive. This is a goalie display that I've rarely seen.
14 saves from Mike Adler. He's 6 off his career high, David, and we still have 4.5 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah, this is. I hate to overuse words, but this is an epic performance by him. But I'm cautious about it because any goalie can be figured out, or have a. It's hard to perform at that pace.
All 3 goals in this game have been scored by Brennan O'Neill. You see him at X, far left side of your screen. Robertson draws the slide. Robertson from distance! Joe Robertson! The grad student from Salem, Virginia, moves just 2 points away from 200 for his career.
Yeah, Robertson is a very shifty and patient dodger. So he's going to go back and forth 3 or 4 times in order to get the right positioning, get his feet set up right, get the right angle on the goal, and then pull it in. You notice that even before he shot, he was still thinking maybe I should pass. And he's that kind of heady, sort of patient player who fights for the high probability shot.
Huge performance against Carolina last season for Robertson. Now Duke leads it 4-0. Tucci wins the faceoff. He'll take it down himself and slow things down. We've seen Zach Tucci score a couple of times. The Syracuse game in the 2019 ACC tournament. The Bryant game wound up being the final game of the 2020 season. Carolina's digging deep in the bag of tricks to try and find something to fool Mike Adler.
Well, this is also, it's a game of runs. So, I think that there's very, I would expect there to be a lot of adjustments and changes in the next remaining time.
Flag down. Might be an offside call, just given where on the field it's located. Tar Heels hit the post on the shot from Herbert. And we'll wait for the call here.
25 blue, illegal procedure, 30 seconds.
Yeah, box violation.
Illegal procedure, 30 seconds.
So the Tar Heels go man up for 30. How can Carolina take advantage of this to try and find their way onto the scoreboard, David?
Honestly, relax. Relax. You have a man advantage. Spread them out. Make sure their slides are long, and make sure your passes are accurate. And they practice this, so they know where this is going. We don't know where it's going, but they do.
Right now, it's in the cross of Jacob Kelly, looking in front for Herbert. Schertzinger rescues it. Tillman. Waning seconds of the extra man. Schertzinger! Carolina capitalizes man up. 5th of the season for the Cincinnati, Ohio senior.
It was a great play, nice recovery. They had limited time. He took his time out here, found time and space, moved in. They waited for the right shot. It was really beautiful. And, again, you're Adler, you can't stop every shot, and that was a well-placed shot. It's beautiful.
Schertzinger, who's earned that starting role this season as a senior. It took until 2:35 of the second quarter, but the Tar Heels finally get rid of the donut in the goal column. Quick look in transition by Naso off the faceoff win. Krieg was ready for it. And David, it feels like now that one's gone in against Adler, that the momentum of this game is starting to shift and that Carolina could potentially have the chance, as they will call a timeout here, try and trim this down to a 2-goal game before the half. But Mike Adler has just had a tremendous game here for Duke. You said you didn't want to exaggerate, but this is one of the best goalie performances you and I have ever seen.
Yeah, he's everywhere, and he's reading things. He's almost playing unconscious, really. He's reading things. A lot of goalie play is muscle memory. It's like you're actually reacting and you don't know why and where, but you're there. And these goalies, there's so many shots that they take, so many repetitions. All of them are simulations of difficult, shots, whether it's going to be down low, right, upper corner, going down to the ground. He sort of does a butterfly save sometimes, almost like a hockey goalie. But I think a goalie like Adler is amazing because he's unpredictable. There are certain goalies that have a certain technique and you know how to beat them. Whereas with Adler, he's actually sort of in your head as a goalie, and you're wondering where his dynamic play is going to be. But to answer your question before, this is a close game. Even though it's 4-1, this is a game of runs, and Carolina called a judicious timeout here. I expect to see Gray do some scoring today, and that's what Duke Carolina games are all about.
6 of the last 10 in this series decided by 1 goal. So if you're Joe Bresci in that huddle, what do you think was drawn up? What do you think the Tar Heels are working on to try and get that offense going with a little more consistency?
Honestly, they practiced all their plays that they're going to be running. Now then they get out on the field and they look at how they're working based on the matchups. And that's really what they're talking about. How do you tweak it based on what they're seeing Duke doing and not doing? And you know, that's something the coach is also going to be talking to them emotionally about. You know, hey guys, if we go in at 4-2 or 4-3, that's a whole different game, right?
Just seeing 4-2 or 4-3 on the scoreboard instead of 4-1 does wonders mentally. Here is Chris Gray. Rare scoreless half for him, trying to change it, defended very, very well. Carolina will keep it though.
Duke's just ragging, you know, a lot of these Carolina players. You know, when I say that, I mean that they're on their hands and they're making the shots very difficult. So you know, that's the key to good defense is to stay on the hands of the offensive player while they're shooting.
Duke comes up with a stop out of the Carolina timeout. Carpenter brings it front side. And the Blue Devils will call for time here, utilizing the first of their 2 timeouts. So Carolina and Duke, one of the fiercest rivalries in all of sports. Men's lacrosse is no exception. Carolina leads the all-time series, but home fields have been very friendly of late, and we mentioned it a moment ago. These games are frequently very closely contested.
Yeah, I mean, this is the rubber match. 5-5 in the last 10 games. It's one of those things where, you know, our coaches used to say, if you can't get up for this game, you can't get up for anything, right? So this is what you know, why you go to these schools, why you go to Duke, why you go to Carolina. One of the big things is, you know, being part of this. It's almost like playing with Yankees, Red Sox, you know, and it's an amazing feeling when you win or you lose. You know, if you lose in one of these games, it hurts and you don't forget it. So but it's beautiful. If you love competition, it's just beautiful.
Do you have one game in this rivalry that you played in that just sticks out a little more than the others?
The '87 team, the Duke, against Carolina was the last game of the season, and that was a game where the year before we went overtime against the '86 team that went on to win the national championship. And we lost that game in '86 in overtime. And the next year they came over to Duke and we beat them 9-7. And I think that was sort of a point where Duke had been really sort of a rising program, and now we're firmly situated in, you know, to play with anybody.
Story time and memories from the former Duke attackman David Keefe. In the interest of transparency, we need to point out that, David, you did attend business school at Carolina, so you paid tuition to both of these institutions.
I did. That's why I'm absolutely neutral in everything I say and do in this booth. And when I watched the basketball game tonight, in fact, is there a game on tonight?
There might be, a little bit later.
I heard about it.
Some coach that might be retiring.
Yeah, it's quite a day down here, and it's also homecoming at Carolina, and you know, so can't ask for anything better, really. I mean, if you love competition, this is the place to be on planet Earth.
Blue Devils can work this down for the final shot. There's about a 2-second difference that you see. The shot clock is still rolling, but Duke's not going to initiate anything offensively here. Robertson, here he goes. He already has 1 goal today. Gets a step on Bresci, out top. Nakai Montgomery stings it past Krieg. Grad student who's experienced a lot of Carolina Duke games through the years, brings the Blue Devil fans to their feet and pushes the lead back to 4.
Right, so patient play. They work on this play in practice, getting Nakai Montgomery open for his signature overhand shot. He's made a living on this shot right here, and if you're going to give him that time and space, he is going to blow it by you. He's a great shooter, great athlete. I tell you, that was a great play, but I think the play that was even better was the timeout, because they could have come down and freelanced, but they called a timeout, and I think that was huge.
So still 18 seconds off the face-off. Carolina will have possession.
So Duke wants to pack it in right now and make sure there's no obvious shooters down low.
Lance Tillman spins, fires. 4.4.
This is all about matchups right now.
Gray from X. in the waning seconds. Mobbed, ball free, and that's the only fitting way this first half could end. 5-1 Duke at the break. David, your impressions on the first 30 minutes?
That last dodge was really exemplary of the Carolina frustration. They came around and they just put Gray in a box this whole first half. So that and ground balls is really something. And then execution. Can Carolina come back? Absolutely. It's a game of runs. It's going to be a really exciting second half.
Rivalry matchup. He was impressive.
Yeah, if you watch him, he's got a lot of time and room to space, time and room to shoot. There's no one on his hands on a lot of these shots. And I think that's going to be an important thing for Carolina to adjust to. You got to get up on his hands in order to make it difficult for him to shoot. And at the same time, when you look at Adler, a lot of his shots saves are amazing, but look, watch the Duke defenders. They're on the hands of all of these shooters, right? And they're making it just a millisecond more difficult for them to get that perfect shot off.
Mike Adler with 14 saves in the first half, 6 off his career high, and a whole half still to play. Stats after the first half, the shots pretty much even. Saves, and it's not like Colin Krieg is playing poorly in the cage for North Carolina. He has 11 saves in the first half.
Right. I mean, other than the fact that he has to be compared against 14, that is an amazing game. And Krieg is an emotional player. He gets the defense going. I'm looking for some of these guys to come up with big plays in order to close that gap from Carolina's perspective.
I think that ground ball number really important. We've talked about it. Second half will begin with a face-off violation in possession to the Tar Heels. Just 1 goal in the first half, the fewest and a half this season for North Carolina. And after the face-off violation, another empty possession. Krieg will pick the ground ball right up, though. Kind of playing with house money for Tyler Carpenter to fling it down there, try and get something in transition.
Yeah, I think they got on his hands. And that's, again, what I was saying before. If you could get on a passer's hands or if you get on a shooter's hands, you can cause turnovers. You can cause bad shots. You can cause bad passes. So that was actually, I think, a nice play by Carolina in transition.
So now here come the Tar Heels with more of a settled attack. Certainly not unfamiliar territory for Carolina as Tillman looks in front. Behind the back, wraparound shot again, stopped by Adler. Chris Gray tried to get fancy. Mike Adler wins the battle again. Jake Caputo in transition. Caputo fires. Krieg goes down and picks it up.
Probably not a great shot for Caputo as a defensive midfielder to be taken. Again, forces the defense to have to play defense again down here, and that's something that on a day like today, it's looking probably a little hot down there. You want to pull that out. Get it to your best shooters to take the best shots.
And Duke has come up with 2 stops so far in the third quarter that's just about 90 seconds old, yet they've been unable to turn that into any sustained possession. 1 week ago, Carolina trailed Bellarmine 8-7 after the third quarter, and we talked to Joe Bresci about that. He said that he and his staff put their team in position to have success, and the players know that. And all they had to say at halftime of the Bellarmine game was, if you lose to Bellarmine, the season's over. They were a 2-8 team in the A-Sun, and the consistency, the execution was just so much better in that fourth quarter to the tune of 8-0 and what turned into a dominating win.
You look right now, Duke's forcing the Carolina offense to make long passes, to be spread out, and they're really playing. They're really pushing them out on the perimeters.
Results in a turnover. The ground ball was picked up initially by Wilson Stevenson, and now here's Duke settling things down. It's what we talked about a moment ago, a sustained possession.
And you just saw Brennan O'Neill. He's maturing as a player. He just put his hand out, said, slow it down, slow it down. He did it actually to Caputo, who took the shot before. And he's saying, we don't need to shoot right now, right? And that's good, like if you're running up and down the field as a midfielder, you don't always really know, clock, tempo, and all of those things. So you look to your attackmen who are watching the whole game to basically help to figure out what should the tempo be.
Montgomery already has a goal. Now he has two. Nakai Montgomery scores again. He hadn't scored since March 5th. Now a 2-goal game today against the arch-rival Tar Heels.
Known as having probably the most dominant first step in lacrosse. There it goes right there. You see the defender trailing the whole way. You can't play defense with your stick on him. You have to have your body. And at that point, Nakai has just a great shot from close in. But it happened with the first step, which was 16 yards out.
21st goal of the season for Nakai Montgomery, native of Dallas, Texas. Now a face-off violation on Carolina. So one violation on each side so far in this second half. And a chance for the Blue Devils here to potentially go up by 6.
Blue Devils right now have to look at it from the perspective of strategic clock management, right? You can have a great possession using a clock the whole way down and not scoring when you're up by 6-1 in the third quarter. And because you do that enough times and then have defensive stops, the math starts to take over.
Becomes a possession game.
Yeah.
O'Neill from goal line extended. It's a 4th goal today. What a physical take by Brennan O'Neill.
And you know, Caputo set that up. He brought out 2 guys on him, and then boom, double team. How do you recover? You cannot cover Brennan O'Neill with just one player, unless you're putting the body on him, and you can't because he's 237 pounds.
Now, I asked John Danowski prior to a game earlier this year that I called, what makes Brennan O'Neill special? And Dino's answer was, well, he's 6'2", 237 pounds. 4 goals for O'Neill. Chris Gray is scoreless.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Brennan O'Neill, I think he's still learning how to use his body in the NCAAs, and I say that as a compliment. You know, it's a complex game. He's known as a shooter. He's a lefty, but learning how to use your body is something that evolves over the 4 years, and that's why, you know, I think he's still just getting started, if you can believe that.
Off the top of the crossbar. That was Dewey Egan, the freshman, making just his 5th appearance of the season for the Tar Heels, 21 in white. Trying to take the quick shot coming from behind.
Ledman likes to push it sometimes. Let's see what he does. He's going to pull it out. Again, clock management is key.
And that's an adjustment in the course of this third quarter. Duke, on their first 2 possessions of this quarter, they tried to push it, rushed some shots, and now they're pulling it out, running time, now that they're up in this game by 6.
Yeah, if you...
Denenza down the alley. He finds McAdory.
So you asked about the difference between this game and the Syracuse game. They're not forcing it into the middle right now. Now, that could change and they could make a bad pass, but you can see that was a very well thought out, good shot, great save, right? But that's the kind of possessions that you have to have if you're playing.
Well, it was a 12th save for Krieg, but a botched clear by Duke. Now O'Neill will wind up on the flamethrower, and he finds Lully. Will stay with Duke. Thought O'Neill was going to take that shot there.
He was bound up. You know, he had guys on his hands. I can't say enough. You know, if you want to see the difference between O'Neill being able to ring the bell and O'Neill being able to sort of get that shot off, it's usually because there's a defender right on his hands.
And And that concept of him growing up and maturing as a player, him learning when to take a shot and when he's got guys on his hands and not, that's all part of that process, right?
Right now, that was a reset. Okay, so Duke's going to, try to again take the patient shot. You can use it. You can use a whole nother 60 seconds here.
You're looking at a possession of over 2 minutes.
Right. And again, the theme is Gray doesn't have the ball right now.
Aiden Tenenza.
When you see some games where, especially in girls lacrosse, where they face guard, they want to deny the best player the ball. Right?
Brennan O'Neill will not be denied today. 5 goals for Brennan O'Neill, 5 of Duke's 8. He keeps on scoring against the arch rival Tar Heels. O'Neill, the dodge, the shot, the score. Duke by 7.
It's still the Eat Fresh Refresh at Subway, and they're refreshing everything, even their Italians.
Whoa, you talking Italians? Jimmy's gonna take it from here.
Stack burger.
DiGiorno. His whole posture is like, I'll decide. We always used to say that's a game-winning sort of philosophy. But as an attackman, you have to try to decide. Like, I know when to go to the goal. I know what I can do. I have the matchup now, and I'm going to make it, and I'm going to perform. And then, this is one of those games where a guy like him at 237, it's very hard to stop unless you have 2 guys on him.
And that graphic tells it all. It's not just 5 goals today. It's 5 goals on 7 shots. He's been so efficient.
Yeah, well, his shots also coming mostly right on the doorstep. So, if you can't stop his shots when they're 18 yards, 16 yards out, try stopping it at 5.
The Tar Heels have been beaten twice this season. Against Virginia in the ACC opener 15-11, but then they also lost at home to Ohio State back in mid-February. That was a 20-8 defeat against Joe Bresci's former team. And Coach Bresci said, yeah, we gave up 20 goals in that game, but about 15 of them came within 5 yards. You can expect Colin Krieg to stop all of those.
Yeah, in fact, back to what I was saying before, what is the metric for Adler? Anything 12 yards and out, you should be able to stop. 12 yards and out, right? So there you go. They don't expect you on the doorstep to make those. That's because there's not a slide that's coming across, or there's too much time being given to the attackman to loiter on the crease, as I like to call it, loitering.
I'll tell you what the Tar Heels don't need right now. Down 7 was an unforced turnover like they just had. Chance for Duke to add to the lead.
Yeah, sometimes those things, unfortunately, can snowball. You get into this thing, and it's not dissimilar from the game last week against Syracuse. I mean, there just wasn't a lot of things, from going Duke's way in terms of breaks. And maybe that's the lacrosse gods conspiring against you, or matchups and what have you. But it is something that Duke has taken advantage of today, and let's see where it goes.
Montgomery looking for the hat trick. Montgomery has the hat trick. 5 for O'Neill and now 3 for Nakai Montgomery.
Yeah, and this would just be not giving him the respect that he deserves, right? Who's on him, right? You have to close that gap. You have to decide you're either going to close the gap and come out and play him and get on his hands, or you're going to have a slide coming in. But neither of those things happen right there. And he's too good to have that kind of, and too quick. Different than O'Neill, where he's too big. In this case, he's too fast.
It's a goal that felt like it almost happened in slow motion. You see Montgomery have all that space. Is he going to shoot? Yeah.
Well, what did we learn this last week from Coach Bresci, right? He said, we have to play consistently, right? And we have a young defense, right? So all of those things combined, we seem to right now to be the primary contributing reasons for some of this.
Tar Heel defense that lost a couple of starters Will Bowen, graduate transfer to Georgetown, has the Hoyas as a serious contender for Memorial Day weekend for the first time ever.
Yeah, watching him play this year, I mean, his prowess on defense up at Georgetown has been unbelievable. I mean, he really can change the entire complexion of the game.
It's a major loss that the Tar Heels are feeling.
So last time you had Caputo bring it out and draw the double and then dump it off. And right now, what they're doing, Duke is right now, this is called probing. You know, they're just probing. What does it do? It wastes a little time off the clock. They're probing to see what they have. And do you have that? It's a beautiful save. Beautiful save by Krieg. He read it perfectly. The better shot probably for Robertson would be to fake and put it on the ground, which is actually his signature shot.
Schertzinger down the middle, out wide for Solomon as the Tar Heels look to get something going offensively. Trailing by 8.
You see, look how far out Duke's pushing the offense. Right? They're playing with this a level of swagger. It's risky because you actually have to have longer slides in order to, you know, cover for your other defenders. But if you look at them, they're out on them, right? They're trying to get on their hands. Caputo right there is they're very extended.
How does that performance compare to what you've seen from Duke earlier this season?
It's different. It looks like a different defense. I mean, right there, that was just a terrific play, right? They timed it, they waited, and then they pulled out. And when they figured they had the trail check, one guy was in front of him. He couldn't really shoot, so he tried to rotate around, and boom, the trail check was there.
So now, as we've discussed all throughout this third quarter, the clock becomes Duke's best friend.
Right, so like this possession, you might not score. But if you use 60 seconds, 90,
you're taking it down inside, 2.5 to go in the quarter.
Yeah, and if you get a reset right here, it's not about.
It is a reset. It's out to O'Neill. No one on his hands out there. 6 goals for Brennan O'Neill.
Yeah, I mean, I could keep saying it again and again and again, but if you don't get on his hands, and this was an opportunistic, rebound. There you go, but boom, no one, not really out there. And again, it's hard to recover from. You don't really know where the ball's going to go on a rebound, but his shot is something like 108, 104, 100, in that range, and that makes it tough.
3 6-goal games this season for Brennan O'Neill. I would not be surprised come Tuesday if we see that he is the ACC's Offensive Player of the Week.
Well, there's a lot of lacrosse still to be played.
Off the face-off win. Ground ball pickup by Wilson Stevenson. Now here's Naso, who stays in there, just can't connect with Robertson. And the mistakes are starting to build on themselves for Carolina here in this third quarter as it goes along.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about psychology of a game, right? And then you look at yourself, and you've been in a game where you're saying, okay, we've scored 1 goal the entire game. How do we score 9 now against the way that this Duke team's playing? And you can't let that get too much in your head, but it does you start to think about it, and hopefully they're looking at it from the vantage point of 1 goal at a time. That's really what you got to do.
Herbert make his first start of the season, sends one well high.
And that was just a perfect trail check. Does Carolina get the ball back? Yes, but it's a very nice check. Herbert's a great player.
Bounces right to Jacob Kelly, wraparound, sneaks one past Adler. 19th of the season for Jacob Kelly, and the Tar Heels finally snapped the 6-0 Duke run.
Yeah, so it was a nice dodge. Got Duke a little bit off-centered and defensively. No one really knew that Kelly was back there. He got the rebound, came on, nice fake, comes around, blows it by Adler. And, those are the kinds of opportunities they need to bounce their way to get back into this ballgame.
So it's an 8-goal game yet again. And the Tar Heels will switch face-off men. This is Andrew Tyre. Duke will go back on offense.
Another ground ball in the middle third. This is that's something that if you're Carolina, regardless of whether you win or lose this game, you are going to be looking at that film, and you're going to be looking at a lot of these ground balls.
You can just look at some numbers, David, and it says Duke is plus 10 in ground balls. Mm-hmm. And that tells your story. Going back to what we said earlier in the broadcast about Joe Bresci's comment to us, special teams win your games in the ACC.
It's actually an interesting thing. If you go back and you look at tight games and you look at all the statistics normally in a tight game, then you look at the ground balls, and it's usually the team that wins 15-14 or 16-17. Those are 17-16. Those are the teams that have that one advantage in ground balls.
Got a 25-second difference shot to game clock. Duke trying to run as much time as they possibly can this possession.
Caputo's going to probably try to draw a double like he did before and get it over to O'Neill.
O'Neill marked by Morris. There is the double, but O'Neill still covered up, right goal line extended. Just 3 to shoot here. Robertson wisely flings it away. Tar Heels will have just under 30 seconds to try and get something going. Down to 12. Schertzinger down the alley. Slips and loses his footing. Time for Duke with 6 and 5. Up ahead, Robertson, 3 and 2. Can't connect with Williams. Final shot stopped by Krieg, and the quarter comes to a close. Duke extends their lead. The Blue Devils 15 minutes away from a win. Down the alley. Slips and loses his footing. Time for Duke with 6 and 5. Up ahead, Robertson, 3 and 2. Can't connect with Williams. Final shot stopped by Krieg, and the quarter comes to a close. Duke extends their lead. The Blue Devils 15 minutes away from a win.
People assume they can't afford great insurance, but State Farm has surprisingly great rates that fit any budget.
Just like they assume our analysts carefully craft their opinions before each show.
Another banger.
Tune into the NBA on ESPN, presented by State Farm.
The overtime went into overtime. What do? You turn to DiGiorno to be MVP. MV Pizza. Fresh baked taste. The win and move. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
Our strength, our power, our purpose starts within. So let's start there, with collagen that supports our body from the inside out.
North Carolina, 5 national championships in their storied program history. Began with Willie Scroggs in 81. They went back-to-back, winning it again in 82. In 1986, a win over Virginia. Then the undefeated team in 1991, and the most recent title not too long ago, back in 2016 in Philadelphia. Tar Heels winning the first under Joe Bresci. He was fired up. Celebrated with the dab.
Yeah, after a great overtime last-minute win with Cloutier's shot. This is an amazing historic program. Really has set the standard for lacrosse in the NCAAs. Them and a few other programs. They're just a powerhouse. it's one of these things where, when you look at it, the tradition is so strong with the players and the alumni and the parents, and it's such a great thing. And the program is just, I don't know, I just love watching Carolina play.
An alumni weekend at Dorrance Field. You saw the national champions recognized on the field at halftime. And we talked to Duke's John Danowski prior to the game. He said, it's their alumni weekend. And you know why they scheduled alumni weekend? They think they can beat us. They think they can get the win against Duke. Well, Coach Danowski and his sideline spoiling the party, as we should say.
I think there's a lot of things that are wrapped around in this rivalry, but ultimately it's what happens on the field. It's what happens with these guys and how they perform based on their game plan. And, right now the Devils have done fairly well today. But, when you look at it, it's there's more lacrosse to be played. And they're not thinking about Duke, Carolina. They're thinking about one goal at a time. And I think that's important. Maybe that gives you a little jitters and nerves going into the game. But when you're on the field, it's not where your head is.
Dyson Williams on the doorstep. Can't stop that. First of the day for the Canadian.
So, amazing shot, but that feed was ridiculous. And when you really look at it, Nakai Montgomery is one of the best feeders in the NCAA, and his stats show it. That threaded 3 needles right there. 1, 2, 3 guys. You don't really see that much. The vision, the ability to complete the pass, that was really something special to watch.
So Williams scores his first of the day. Rare is the game where he doesn't score. Violation, Duke possession. But Nakai Montgomery, what an afternoon for 15 in blue. Hat trick and now that assist.
Yeah, if you look statistically at Duke this year, where Montgomery and O'Neill go, the team follows. If they're both clicking, it's very hard to beat them, right? So there's a lot of lacrosse still to be played. All of these guys have the heart of their ACC schedule in front of them. So, like I said, there's some of these players are just getting warmed up on both sides.
Maybe it was Dino not wanting to tip his hands. Maybe it was genuinely not knowing what the plan was going to be a couple of days out. But John Danowski, when we asked him about potential changes off the Syracuse game, he was pretty non-committal. He just said, we need our guys to step up. And they've done that today.
Yeah, and it was an interesting discussion we had with him because it was sort of the field general question. Who's the field general? He said the unit is the field general. There is no field general maybe of years past, but and again, they're playing like that. They're playing like with a solemn, team effort right now, and that's something that you have to sort of say is admirable. Some teams play with the ball goes down to one guy and he initiates the whole offense. Today, it's really been spread out.
And O'Neill and Montgomery have taken scoring headlines with 6 and 3 goals respectively.
In the crease, that's unlucky.
It's Henry Schertzinger who scored the first goal of the game for Carolina. Duke will go back on offense, trying to attack on Colin Cree. He has 16 saves to match Adler. Just doesn't really feel like it, though, given the way that this game looks on the scoreboard.
Well, look at this. I don't know what the statistics right now are for clears, but right now, I haven't seen Duke drop a pass on a clear in the middle third. Maybe a couple, but that is against a team like Carolina, that's pretty impressive because Carolina's got great athletes and they force you to make bad plays in the middle third of the field.
22 of 23 is the number for Duke.
22 of 23. That's the stuff you dream of against a Carolina.
O'Neill got his hands free again. 7.
Sweep dodge. He's going to come in. He's testing, pulling in, pulling out. Again, the whole time he's doing that arc, there's really not anyone on his hands, right? And if you're the Carolina coach, you're saying, how can that be? You know? And the issue is he's big and he's pretty fast. So, you know, you got to get on his hands.
Brennan O'Neill's done a lot in his Duke career. Prior to today, he has never scored 7 goals in one game. I know the true answer is probably a mix of both, but how much of this performance is O'Neill stepping up and meeting the moment versus defensive breakdowns from Carolina?
I don't think Carolina has played horribly in that regard. I just think that sometimes, you know, Lacrosse. I was calling a game against Richmond, I think it was, and we were in this discussion, and there's, you know, Lacrosse sometimes is just a game of matchups. You know, you get out there and you've got everything right on paper, but the matchup isn't right. You know, all your X's and O's are in place, but you just don't have the right matchups. And you can't do anything about that. You know, if your best guys are out there and their best guys.
Joe Robertson with his second goal of the game. The onslaught continues for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, he's just sort of probing in. He's been given time and space. No one's on the hands. And, you know, it's very hard to play with against a guy like Robertson if you're either not on his hands or not on his body. You know, pushing him out. Which you're allowed to do, you know.
So 4 points today for Robertson. David, that sends him over 200 for his career. Only 8 Duke players since 2005 have recorded 200 points in a Duke career. Some elite company for Joe Robertson.
Yeah. Joe Robertson came in as you know, a really good, highly recruited guy from Virginia, but I don't think anyone expected him to have that kind of impact on the team that he did until second year, until he started really. It was a breakaway game against Denver. They were down 4 goals, 3 goals going into the fourth quarter. He scored all 4 goals his freshman year in the rain, and that was sort of his breakthrough. So, you know, hats off to him. He's had a really fundamentally good career, and he's one of the more cerebral players that I've seen. He really understands.
Gray misses. It's backed up and it'll stay with the Tar Heels. But to continue the discussion on Robertson, last year he was Mr. Overtime. 4 career overtime winners, including the one at Koskinen against the Tar Heels last year when both were undefeated.
Yeah, and it was an interesting. I saw an interview with him afterwards at one of the games, and he said, I actually, the dodge that he got.
There's the first of the day for Chris Gray. It comes with 10-12 to go in this fourth quarter. And it ties Pat Spencer for 3rd in Division I history in career points.
Amazing goal. Amazing player. You know, you look at amazing goal, amazing player. You know, you look at him now, always finding an opportunity. His sort of low to high, but he put it right off the offside hip. Mid-range shot, and you know he's got to get that mojo going, right? That was right offside, and offside hip. It's probably the hardest place to place a shot. It's from a goalie's perspective, so perfect shot.
Face-off win for Tyre. Adler denies him on the breakaway. 18th save for Mike Adler, 2 off his career high. Adler worse for the wear, and the flag comes down.
We got a flag.
Ledman, and this will bring play to a stop.
Yes, so that was a roughing call. He didn't hit him from behind. I don't think he came up on his head.
White 8, unnecessary roughness, 1 minute.
Unnecessary roughness on Nicky Sullivan, 1 minute.
And that really wasn't because it was a bad check. It was just late. You know, the play was over. The pass had been made. I don't know if Sullivan could stop his momentum. Sometimes that happens because you just can't pull back.
Are we at 80 or 60?
Is that a frustration play?
Yeah.
Just because of the way this game's going.
Tired, frustrated. Yeah, absolutely. It happens. And who's it on? It's on the guy who's basically carried this team. It's against Adler. So I mean, Adler has, he's been frustrating those guys. Not saying anything that was anything personal or anything, but it's just sort of, emotions take over.
Domination from start to this point of the game for Duke. Up by 10 on their arch rivals on the road. Duke has only won once in their past 5 games here in Chapel Hill. That was in 2017.
Watch number 21.
It's Cameron Moulet there.
Yep. And watch how he moves. Very patient. They know that they can still waste time off the clock. Moulet has the ball right now. He's their key finisher. So you'll see where the play is going. If they can try to get it into him. He doesn't miss.
Instead, it's a turnover.
Beautiful.
Oh. Morris took it away, but Creed comes out of the crease to pick up the ground ball. Back at even strength, Solomon out of the box. Gray just moments ago scored his first. Now his second goal, or second point in a couple of minutes as he finds Dominic Pryor for the transition goal.
Yeah, it was nice. Great transition. They're trying to get, they've got numbers. They're looking around the trail right there. So, that's textbook. They practice it all day long. And you got that trail cutter in there, and he's just going to put it right in, one-on-one with the goalie. Not much Adler can do. Nice play by Carolina.
First goal of the season for the defensive midfielder. Hofstra transfer Dominic Pryor. Flag down off the violation.
White, face-off violation, 30-second penalty. White, face-off, 30-second penalty.
So a third violation on Carolina, 30 seconds.
Yeah, so this starts to be a very interesting thing because they're going to get a penalty every time this happens. And what happens sometimes is a face-off guy will start to be a little bit less aggressive in order to avoid the violation, right? And so I've seen games where this is called into place and all of a sudden the face-offs go dramatically one way. So you got to watch this because it's in effect for the rest of the half.
And for a Tar Heel team that's down by 9, that could be devastating.
Yeah, I mean this is again. Do you score or do you kill the clock? Which one is worse? The ultimate thing Duke's looking to do is score with 2 seconds on the clock right now. So they're going to play. They're just going to play offense now.
Dyson Williams with his second of the game. Nice feed.
So
back to a 10-goal lead for the Blue Devils. Dyson Williams receives the feed from Robertson. All Duke in Chapel Hill.
It's still the Eat Fresh Refresh at Subway, and they're refreshing everything, even their Italians.
Whoa, you talking to me?
Or
A1's purpose.
Scoring early in the fourth quarter. That's the assist right there to Dominic Pryor just a moment ago. And so, Chris Gray has now passed Pat Spencer of Loyola. He is in sole possession of third place in NCAA history and career points, now 2 away from matching Michael Sowers, former Blue Devil and Princeton Tiger.
It's just an amazing, ridiculous stat that you could be in that position. He does it all, and his points are balanced too. When you look at him, he's got a lot of his career he's doing a lot of assists, but he's done a lot of goal scoring too, and he's got a marksman shot. Coach Bresci said this week, he has taught some of the players on the team, the younger players, that you don't have to shoot hard. You can take a little bit off the ball and put it where you want. And that's where, that's what he does. And he's just, I just love watching him play and how smart he is as a player. He's very cerebral. He knows what to do. And I think he could wind up being the all-time leading scorer.
He's the active career leader in both points and assists. Transfer from Boston University, where he played his first 2 years. In a Carolina program that missed the NCAA tournament in 2018 and 2019. They were undefeated at the time of the season cancellation in 2020. Last year, Gray led the Tar Heels all the way to the Final Four, their first trip back there since 2016.
Where Chris Gray goes, Carolina goes, really.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, he doesn't have a lot of points today, but he hasn't made a lot of mistakes. He just hasn't had the ball.
McAdory, the standout freshman, with a sidearm rip past Colin Krieg. 15th goal of the season for Andrew McAdory.
So probably the second quickest first step on the team, other than Nakai Montgomery. He's got a cannon of a shot in close, like really a wrist shot. Interestingly, he is the beast in the weight room, pound for pound. He's back to sort of the days of Jordan Wolfe, who was known to be just a tyrant in the weight room. And, that's just really, you see that in that strength in his dodge.
The number 2 freshman in this year's recruiting class by Inside Lacrosse. Ledman, who has the ball in his stick right now. We talked earlier about how he broke Paul Rabel's records in high school, and now he's a defensive midfielder. Just think about the talent that you have to earn playing time on the first midfield line at Duke as a freshman, and that's what McAdory's done.
Well, also, it's I give him credit taking on that role, right? You know why? Because he's got the build for it. I mean, he's 6'4", I think 220, and so they looked at it and said, we need you more here than we need you there, right? And I think that's a credit to him, and he's done a great job.
Robertson looking for his hat trick, well high.
Krieg runs it out, nice play.
That's a hustle play by Colin Krieg, because Lully and Williams were headed for the end line, but it was Krieg, the goalkeeper, that wins the foot race. Tar Heels trailing by 11, back on offense, under 5.5 to go.
It's a freshman. Paul Herbert.
Veteran Schertzinger, already a goal today, finds Tillman. And it's Tillman's 14th of the season. Had a hat trick last week against Bellarmine, and now has his first of the day.
It was just a nice inside play here. Beats on him on the dodge, looks inside. Devils are basically ball watching a little bit on the inside. Again, why was that pass effective? No one was on his hands, right? So combine that with a little bit of mismatch and who's got him on the crease, and you get a nice little ticky-tack goal there.
Tyre wins another face-off. Solomon will fire quickly. Adler makes the stop. That's number 19, one away from the career high. 14 saves in the first half, now 5 in the second half for Mike Adler. And Duke can kill a lot of clock here. Take it under 3:45 to go.
Yeah, I think the Devils are going to try to really milk this for all that they can and get a judicious shot with a few seconds left, and if it goes in, it goes in, but if it doesn't, you're talking about 3 minutes and 10-goal lead, and that's sort of what I would call dire straits. Yeah, they're in no rush right now.
So it's a Duke team coming off a very disappointing loss to Syracuse on the road. They make the trip here to Chapel Hill for another road game, a place they hadn't won since 2017, playing a rival, all the emotions associated with this game. And Duke has dominated from the get-go. What kind of a statement is this for John Danowski's team?
Well, as an alumni, we get letter from Danowski every week, basically as a recap. It's really nice, good and bad. And in it, he said this week that that they were angry. And sometimes anger and frustration makes you wake up a little bit. So I thought that was very telling. They knew they could play better against Syracuse. They really want to make sure that they secure an ACC win in order to stay in contention, and that's how it went. So it'll be a reset, I believe.
Yep, reset for Lully and the Blue Devils. They can kill even more time.
It's probably one of the worst things that just could have happened.
When you look at this from the Duke perspective, this is their second ACC game. They'll go to 1-1 in the league. The next 3 ACC games are at home at Koskinen. And so now North Carolina, who falls to 0-2 in the conference, 3 of their last 4 are on the road. So it's a much different story moving forward. And you almost got the vibe as Duke has swapped goalies here with Andrew Bonafini coming in to replace Mike Adler. But coming into this week, you thought, okay, I think that Carolina may be in the better spot headed into the month of April. But coming out of this game, it's very hard to argue that it's not the Blue Devils that are set up for success in the ACC.
Yeah, but it all is not lost. Like with respect to Carolina, there's plenty. They have a lot of ACC games to try to make a difference and win. But also, some of these Ivy League teams that are in the top 10 right now that are 6-1, 7-1, those teams are going to lose. So there's a lot of really sort of shining records, in terms of win-loss right now in the top 10. But there's going to be some movement, I think. So I would say don't judge what's going to happen in the end of the season based on this game, because Carolina has a lot of lacrosse to play, and there's a lot of other things that are going to happen in movement in the top 10.
Yeah, they'll get every other ACC team at least one more time, starting with a trip to Charlottesville next Saturday. And at the end of the day, Tar Heels started this week with an RPI of number 9, so even with this disappointing loss, as Tillman scores again, his second in a couple of minutes. Things still okay for Carolina.
Yeah, same beautiful cross cage pass. No one on Tillman. You got to guard him. Time and room. He puts it down. Offside low. Just a beautiful shot.
Jordan Ginder in there taking the face off for Duke against Zach Tucci. Back out for Carolina. And it's won by the Blue Devils.
It was just a great play getting on the hands as the Carolina midfielder was trying to pick up the ball, and he waited and just right in the amount of time got on his hands. I keep saying that over and over today, but I think it's a big part of this game.
Duke does not need to take another shot. There's a 1 second difference shot to game clock. Could run out, but there would be just 1 second left. So the Blue Devils will kill off this remaining time and will celebrate a victory at Dorrance Field for the first time since this facility opened. It'll be their first win in Chapel Hill since 2017, and only their second win on the road against North Carolina in the last 6 tries. Now off the reset, the Blue Devils officially don't need to shoot it again. Final seconds will roll away. This edition of the Rivalry goes the way of the Duke Blue Devils, behind 7 goals from Brennan O'Neill and 19 saves from Mike Adler. Duke earns a top 10 win on the road against their arch rivals.
Yeah, this was a game.